Everybody know what day it is? Yes. Hey, this is Conspiracy Tuesday. Welcome to Soapbox Day. I'm your host, Matt Morgan, and this is episode 42. Thanks for joining me today for Conspiracy Tuesday. Today, we are discussing, are we all living in the Matrix? So get your tinfoil hats ready, folks. This is our conspiracy theory for today. Here's our topic. Are we all living in the Matrix? I want to thank you very much for joining me today. How was your integrity today? Are you having a good integrity day? Are you being the change the world needs? Also, please check out getoffmysoapbox.com for more information on this show and our long format show of Get Off My Soapbox. So let's get into today's topic. And ironically, I noticed that it is episode 42, which, if any of you know, 42 is, of course, the meaning of life, the answer to it all. But I'll leave that for another show, another topic, if you are not sure what that means. But let's get into this. Are we all living in the Matrix? And the question that comes to mind, is it the Matrix or is it magic? Because unless you've been hiding under a rock for the last 20 years and are not familiar, if you're not familiar at all what the Matrix is all about, I don't know, check out anything about movies or any cultural type influences over the last 20 years about the Matrix. It's not that far off. I think somebody has caught it on one level or another as far as the Matrix goes. But, the idea that we may be living in the Matrix-like universe is called the simulation theory. It was first proposed by Nick Bostrom. It argues that human technology is advancing at such a rate that in the future, we will have the ability to simulate entire universes filled with details as rich and beautifully complex as our own. These simulated universes would also contain beings that were genuinely conscious as a result of the advanced ability of the simulation, and so would be able to think and would be self-aware in the same way that we can and do. These beings would be indistinguishable from us in terms of the depth of their minds, the only difference being that their life springs from circuit boards and artificial design rather than the real world, which has given a life to us. These beings, then being no less able or imaginative than us, would actually progress to the point of technological advancements at which they would create and run their own simulations. The simulated minds they create may do likewise, and so there would be simulations inside of simulations. There could be billions of universes therefore being simulated in a chain with only one base reality, the quote-unquote real world, at the start. That being the case, it looks far more likely that any one individual would be living in a simulated universe rather than the real one. Once we acknowledge this possibility, we have to then consider that these odds apply to us as well. And so according to the theory presented, we are more likely to be living in a simulation than the real world. One counter argument is to consider that all these simulations have a common feature. They all have their own simulation. The only universes that might not are the most recent simulated universe, as the inhabitants may not have yet developed the technology necessary to create one, or base reality. Then it gets really deep with regards to that. And then, with that last argument, it turns out that simulated universes aren't possible. But there is some thought to this. Are we living in the Matrix? And I've kind of wondered about this. It's kind of made me wonder because of the bizarreness of our world right now. If you look outside, what reality does Trump become president? Come on now. And then you have these other realities that just seem so far-fetched. And this is also why I mentioned earlier on, is it magic or is it the Matrix? Are we generating our own realities? Are our thought processes rewriting the program of the simulation of the world we live around us? Are we in our own Matrix reality? And if that's the case, why do we not just have a euphoric, exactly our perfect ideal of what reality should be? I know personally, if I was living inside the Matrix, my world would be a hell of a lot different. It really would be a hell of a lot different. I would be doing outlandish stuff, just crazy stuff. I would know how to fly. I would know how to be able to visit any time periods. The ideas are just endless. But some people are wondering, with glitches that have been happening, some weird things that have been happening in the world, some really odd things, are we living in the Matrix? It makes you wonder, are we living in a Matrix simulation? It makes me wonder at times, but at other times, again, my argument before, I would be having a whole different reality. I really would, but maybe there's limitations on the simulation. Maybe we can only influence so much in the simulation that we're kind of struck down and limited by certain confinements, that we can't make it a perfect dream interesting because then it would just not seem realistic. And if you watch the Matrix movies, I do recommend them in order, you would see that you have to put strife in there because even as they say in the movie, if you made it too perfect, then you reject the programming. I don't know. I'll leave that with you to think about for our conspiracy theory today. Rattle that around your head. Let me know what you think. By all means, head on over to Twitter at Mad Soapbox. Share your thoughts and views. I'd love to hear from you. Or hey, you know what? You can even go to YouTube. We actually reformat for video over on YouTube. You can leave comments on there as well. So feel free to check that out. As you'll find that link on getoffmysoapbox.com. At the top, there's links there to YouTube as well. But I'd love to hear back from you what you think. Do you think we're living in the Matrix? Do you think we live in a Matrix reality? Do you think that's where we're at? Like the world actually ended at one point. Some people say 2012 is when the world ended and then we entered a simulation. But I'd like to hear what you think. By all means. Other than that, hey, I'm your host, Mad Morgan. Thank you again for joining me for another episode of Soapbox Daily. I hope you have an amazing day moving forward. And hey, keep an eye out for glitches in the Matrix. You never know. Maybe there's some truth to this. All right. Thanks for listening, and I will see you next episode.